Poverty. It's a word that, really evokes images of hunger, despair, and struggle. But what we often miss is that poverty is not just about numbers or missing income, it's about the lives behind the statistics. In today's world, some countries face unimaginable economic hardship, trapped in cycles of war, colonial legacies, environmental disasters, and broken systems. These nations aren't just poor in wealth, they're underserved, forgotten, and often misunderstood. Today, we'll take you on a journey through the 10 poorest countries in the world, not to shame them, but to understand them. Behind the data, there are stories of resilience, humanity, and quiet strength. Let's dive in. Number 1. Burundi, GDP per capita, around $250. Burundi is a small landlocked country in East Africa, but its challenges are vast. With a history of colonial conquest, ethnic conflict, and economic mismanagement, Burundi has found itself locked in one of the deepest poverty cycles on Earth. Roughly 90% of its population relies on subsistence farming, but deforestation, soil erosion, and climate change have severely affected crop yields. Access to electricity is limited. Only about 11% of the population has power. Education is free, but overcrowded classrooms and a lack of teachers hinder learning. But amidst all the hardship, Burundians are survivors. Communities come together to build schools, women run cooperative farming groups, and youth lead community education drives. Number 2. South Sudan, GDP per capita, about $275. South Sudan became the world's newest nation in 2011, a moment of celebration that soon turned to tragedy. Within just 2 years, civil war tore the country apart. Over 4 million people have been displaced. Despite having oil reserves, South Sudan's infrastructure is almost non-existent. Roads become impassable during rainy seasons. Schools operate in tents. Hospitals lack electricity, medicine, and staff. Famine is always one failed harvest away, and yet, the human spirit endures. Mothers walk miles to access food rations. Volunteer teachers educate under trees. Former child soldiers are being reintegrated into society with hope and resilience. Number 3. Malawi, GDP per capita, around $400. Known as the warm heart of Africa, Malawi is full of friendly faces and stunning natural beauty. Yet it's one of the poorest countries in the world. The vast majority of its population lives in rural areas without electricity or running water. Malawi's economy is based largely on agriculture, but climate change has brought unpredictable rains and devastating floods. HIV and AIDS has ravaged communities. Healthcare is free in theory, but medicine often runs out. Education is mandatory, but many families cannot afford uniforms or textbooks. Still, Malawi has one of the highest volunteer rates in Africa. Communities band together for water projects, mobile health programs, and reforestation efforts. Number 4. Mozambique, with a GDP per capita of around $450, is a country blessed with rich soil, natural gas, and one of Africa's longest coastlines. But corruption, violent insurgencies, and natural disasters have really devastated its economy. Cyclones Idai and Kenneth in 2019 alone killed over 1,000 people and displaced hundreds of thousands. In the north, extremist attacks have forced families to flee. As of today, nearly half the population lives below the poverty line. Yet Mozambique's resilience is inspiring. Women's groups are forming small banks. Coastal communities are adopting mangrove reforestation, and children, they continue school despite trauma. Number 5. The Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC, has a GDP per capita of about $550. The DRC is both cursed and blessed. Rich in minerals, cobalt, diamonds, and gold, it really should be a wealthy nation. But decades of foreign plundering, civil war, and internal conflict have stripped the country of stability. Children work in mines, digging with their bare hands for minerals that power the smartphones of the world. Roads are nearly impassable. Malaria and conflict-related deaths are common. millions remain displaced. But the Congolese people are not broken. Art, music, and faith play massive roles in their resilience. Communities create schools and clinics out of scrap metal. Mothers form protection groups to guard children from recruitment. Number 6. Niger, with a GDP per capita of roughly $560, is honestly one of the hottest, driest, and most challenging places on Earth to survive. Situated in the heart of the Sahel, this vast landlocked nation faces brutal climate conditions, scorching heat, minimal rainfall, and relentless desertification. Over 80% of its land is desert, and much of the population lives in remote villages with no access to roads, electricity, or clean water. The literacy rate is among the lowest in the world, especially for girls. Early marriages, child labor, and food insecurity are widespread, and with one of the world's fastest growing populations, the pressure on Niger's resources just keeps mounting. And yet, Niger is not without soul. Its people are fiercely resilient. Storytelling, music, and craftsmanship are deeply rooted in its culture. Women are increasingly becoming educators and community leaders. And nomadic tribes like the Tuareg continue ancient traditions of survival in one of the world's harshest landscapes. Number 7. Liberia, with a GDP per capita of around $580, holds a unique place in Africa's history. It was actually founded in the 19th century by freed African-American slaves who returned to their ancestral continent. But its promise of a new beginning was shattered by decades of political unrest, 2 devastating civil wars, and the deadly Ebola outbreak that, sadly, claimed thousands of lives. Today, Liberia continues to grapple with fragile institutions, limited job opportunities, and, poor infrastructure. Public schools are underfunded. Hospitals are understaffed. Unemployment, especially among the youth, is staggeringly high. But out of this adversity has come an incredible spirit of rebuilding. Grassroots organizations are training young people in tech. Women are starting eco-businesses. And Liberia was the first African country to elect a female president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who really symbolized hope in a region that desperately needed it. Number 8. Madagascar, GDP per capita about $590. Madagascar is often known for its exotic wildlife and biodiversity, but hidden behind the tourist brochures is a tragic reality. Over 75% of its population lives in poverty, and much of its rural population survives on less than $2 a day. The south of the country is particularly hard hit. Years of drought have led to famine-like conditions, where families eat cactus and clay to survive. The country's isolation from international markets, coupled with political instability, has left basic services in disrepair. And yet, Madagascar is a land of innovation. Local farmers are adopting sustainable rice farming techniques. Environmental groups are working with locals to protect endangered species. Education projects powered by solar energy are reaching children in the most remote corners. Number 9. Central African Republic, GDP per capita, around $615. The Central African Republic is a nation nearly forgotten by the world. It is rich in diamonds, gold, and timber, yet nearly 3/4 of its population lives in extreme poverty. The reason? Ongoing violence, chronic instability, and a government that struggles to control even the capital. Armed groups roam freely, and humanitarian workers are often the only form of authority in many towns. Hospitals have been burned, schools have been turned into barracks. Nearly half of the country's children are not in school at all. Yet, amid this chaos, stories of heroism emerge. Nuns running makeshift clinics, teachers holding class under trees, former rebels joining peace-building initiatives. These quiet acts of resistance show that even in the darkest places, hope survives. Number 10. Chad, GDP per capita, about $620. Chad is a country defined by extremes, extreme heat, extreme hardship, and extreme resilience. Located at the crossroads of North and Central Africa, Chad is plagued by drought, desertification, and displacement caused by regional conflicts. Much of its population is pastoral, relying on livestock and seasonal agriculture to survive. But as water becomes scarce and conflict increases near the borders with Sudan, Libya, and Nigeria, millions are caught in a cycle of crisis and migration. Still, Chadians hold on. The country has a strong cultural identity rooted in tribal traditions. NGOs and local leaders are working together to drill new wells, promote girls' education, and teach sustainable farming. Even in the barren landscapes of the Sahel, life continues to fight for a future. Poverty is not a choice. It's a consequence of history, geography, inequality, and often indifference. These nations may rank lowest in GDP, but they are rich in spirit, community, and perseverance. Behind every hardship, there's a story of courage. A child walking miles to school, a mother starting a micro-business, a village rebuilding after disaster, and maybe, just maybe, by understanding their struggles, we can play a small part in reshaping their future.